Welcome to Inkquiring Minds. My name is Doug and I'm back with another Pen Resurrection Sunday video. Today I've got two of the same vintage fountain pen on the slab.
Search is two mints in one.
Both dead as a doornail and both ready for resurrection. These are Waterman's Citations from the late 1940s, and although they look like identical twins...
Hello, Charlene.
I'm Marlene.
Hello, Marlene.
I'm Charlene.
Chew your gum.
There's slight differences between these two fountain pens. So I'm going to restore both of these fountain pens. The Citation is a taper-right kind of fountain pen made by Waterman in response to the Parker 51 that was so very successful in the 1940s. Parker came out with the 51 in around 1940, just before the war started for the Americans, and it featured a hooded nib. Well, everybody needed a hooded nib, so Waterman came out with what they called the taper-right. But first, let's triage these two fountain pens to see what they need to be resurrected to the land of the writing. Let's take this one to begin with. They're both lever fillers. They both have large cap bands, and these large cap bands were in response to a popular design made by Schaefer in the 1930s and 40s, and that was the Schaefer Triumph. Had this large gold cap band, and the taper-right has what looks like a Parker 51 kind of hooded section, but the nib was much more visible and normal than the Parker 51 nib, and in fact in advertisements Waterman used this as a plus. You can actually see your nib to write with. That was one of the things that Parker 51 owners complained about. It was that it was difficult to write with because you couldn't see the nib. Well, here the nib is very visible over the front of that hood. So we call these sort of semi-hooded fountain pens. And the section isn't completely round like it is on the Parker 51. It has kind of a D shape to it. You look at it end on, you can see it's smooth triangular on the top and a curve on the bottom. And that is a 14 karat gold nib. There is a concave clutch ring separating the section from the barrel, and a very Parker 51-like clutch assembly on the inside of the cap, which grabs onto that clutch with a click. The second taper-right Citation has the same gold nib and section, but the clutch ring is concave and thinner, and that's one of the differences between these two Canadian-made Waterman Citations. The clutch rings are different. The wide concave clutch ring dates the pen from between 1945 and 1947, whereas the thin convex clutch ring dates it from early 1947 onward. And also, both clips have the same style to them. This one has Waterman's slightly higher than that one, and starting in 1948, there were 3 lines on the top of each one of the clips. This one with the narrow clutch between 1947 and 1948, and this one with the wide concave clutch from between 1945 and 1947. But that's not all the differences. If we look down here at the box levers, you can see that the newer convex clutch ring Citation has a shorter and slightly wider box lever filler assembly, whereas the earlier one from 1945 to 1947 is longer and narrower. They both have lots of wear on them, and there's only one marking on the barrel that says Waterman's Made in Canada. Very faint on the 45 to 47, and from this 1947, a little bit deeper, it says Waterman's Made in Canada. A lot clearer. See, the pens post nicely, and with that wide cap band, it's a really nice look in black with all these gold appointments. Very comfortable pen, both posted and unposted. Now, one of the difficulties with restoring one of these Waterman taper-rights is that Waterman used a rather brittle type of plastic and a very strong adhesive to attach that section to the barrel. And many of these taper-rights end up being broken because it's just so difficult to get them apart. Well, using a little bit of heat, just a tiny amount of heat, and a rubber gripper, I was able to twist my section out And on the old one, this has been resacked recently. By recently, I say probably in the last 10 years, because that latex sack in there is very soft and pliable. They tend to get hard back here at the tip if they're old and full of ink and let dry for a long time. But this is very pliable, so this is recent. I rinsed it with some clear water and couldn't get much ink out of this at all, so it wasn't left with ink in it. Now let's take a look at the 1947. I did the same thing, a little bit of heat, twisted off the section, and this one has a broken, desiccated, you can see how it turns into almost like glass, powder, latex sack in there, and so I'll have to dig that old sack out of there, and we can see the lever filler mechanism is crunching on that old desiccated sack, and there's part of it falling out, and there's the clutch ring coming off. I don't want to lose that. Comes off the barrel. So I have to order a way for a sack for this to restore this particular fountain pen. So I'm just going to take off the excess, and it's ripping right off that section. There we go. And I'm going to put that back together again, put this one aside, and concentrate on this one to restore. I'm going to soak all of these parts in my pen flush ultrasonic bath, and my pen flush is homemade, and it's 90% distilled water and 10% ammonia. Let it sit for 2 or 3 minutes to get any excess old ink out of there as much as I can, and then I'm going to heat this section just a bit to pull that sack off without wrecking it, so I can reuse it. So let's do that bit for right now. So I soaked this a little bit and rinsed some blue-black ink out of the section a little bit, but now I'm going to apply some heat to make that shellac right there a little bit tacky, so I can pull this sack off without wrecking it. There we go. So I'll clean off the rest of that old shellac off of there, and that sack is in pretty good shape. Just going to kind of tease the rest of that old shellac off of there with my X-Acto blade. There we go. Now I'm going to soak this some more just to make sure all that old ink is out of there, and it will help when I try to tap this feed and nib out of the section. This is a difficult operation, has to be done very carefully. That feed is very long and very tight right in here, and that plastic is brittle. So off camera I've soaked and soaked and soaked this and tried hammering it out. Wanted to be careful with it because it could split so easily. I hammered it in my block, and it really did not want to budge. And so I've decided not to knock that feed out of there. I've run water through it. It's flowing water very nicely through there. So I think I'm just going to clean it up and polish that nib as best I can from outside, because I don't want to run the risk of destroying this section. So I'm going to polish up this nib, put it over here and section together as one unit, and we'll see what it looks like when it comes out over here. And here's the section all polished up. I think it looks terrific. The feed even polished up nicely too. So we'll have to do the same with the barrel. Let's put it up here. There's lots of cap wear marks on this. The lever could use some polishing. Not too many bite marks in there, but we'll do the same treatment, going through the micromesh from 1500 grit to 12,000 grit, then finishing up on my buffing wheel with some polishing compound. And now let's take a look at the cap. These clips were riveted in, so there's not much you can do about it if they break or they get loose. This one's nice and tight and straight, and that cap band has lots and lots of wear on it. It has courses of vertical stripes, whole sections of bare gold, and that whole thing should polish up beautifully. I'm going to use micromesh on the plastic up to about 4,000 grit, and then I'll use the 4,000 grit on to 12,000 to polish the rest of the gold, and then put it on my buffer wheel, and we'll see how it looks. And we should take a look at the lever mechanism and see that it's working perfectly inside there and shows no sign of corrosion at all. Well, there's the cap all polished up. It's looked pretty good. It was difficult to get around that clip and that wide cap band, but the final polish really brought out all the beauty of that gold and black. It's looking very, very nice all the way around. Now we've just got to do the barrel, and then we can resack this puppy and see how it writes. And there's the barrel looking lovely and polished up. Yeah, it just looks like a black piano key, doesn't it? Beautiful. So what we'll do is we'll put the sack back on this and put the pen back together again, and then give it a writing sample. Okay, let's resack this pen. The old sack is in really, really good shape, so I'm going to reuse that. And we're going to shellac the nipple with my Inky Nib shellacker pen. I know it fits, so I don't have to do a test fit. And just paint it all the way around. Probably fit it without the sack spreader, but makes it easier just to get it up under that bit right there. And I'm just going to give it a slight turn. There we go. And it's right where it was. So we'll let that dry overnight, and then I'll come back and fill it up, put the pen back together, and do a writing sample. Okay, now it's the next day, and we're going to put this section and sack back in the barrel. Just going to put a little talc on the latex, just so that it doesn't bind up inside the barrel. And then let's line up the nib with the lever. And there, it's looking pretty good. So I'm going to do a writing test with this first, and if it writes okay, then I'll take that section out again, add a little bead of shellac to the end of the sack, which will touch the back of the section. When I put it back together again, it'll seal that section inside the barrel. But first, let's fill this pen with ink, and we're going to measure its weight first. And it is exactly 11 grams. Press tear, grab some Watermans, dip it in the ink, and give it a couple of pulls. Now these sacks take a while to inflate with the pressure, so I'm going to give it a couple of pulls and wait with the nib in the ink for at least 5 steamboats, so that sack completely inflates with ink. And we get 0.78 milliliters of ink, which is pretty good. Now, let's take a moment just to compare it with the Citation that hasn't been restored. What a difference. And they look like two completely different pens, don't they? So once that new sack comes in, I'm going to do the same treatment to this one that I did to this one. And then we'll have two perfectly restored Waterman Citations. Now let's get out some paper and write with this pen. This is the one with the concave clutch ring. So this is the 1945 Waterman Citation. And this is a very, very wet pen and very smooth. I can hardly feel that nib on the page. And let's check out these lines. This is a 14 karat gold. I'm going to call it a medium. And get my pad from Dominant Industries, which I got from Tomoto of Gold Spot Pens. To measure these lines, I'd have to blot them a bit. It's so wet. The horizontals are 0.5 and the verticals are 0.6, which makes it a true Western medium nib. This is a lovely writer. Let's check out, see what kind of bounce we have out of this. Well, it's railroading, so there, a little bit slower, but it is bouncing. So it's not a flex nib, but for a semi-hooded nib, there's a good amount of bounce to this nib. Something you don't find in a Parker 51. So beautiful pen. So let's do the same thing with the 1947 Citation. I've taken the clutch ring off of the barrel since it keeps falling off, and I put it away in a safe container so I don't lose it. Don't want to lose that. And I'm going to soak all these parts in the pen flush again, and I think I'm not going to try to knock that feed out of there. We'll get as much of that old ink dissolved in the ultrasonic bath of pen flush, and we'll polish it up just like I did the other one without removing that nib. The nib looks like it's in really good shape. I've checked it with my loop, and it looks like it's really well aligned and smooth. And this one has a stamp on it that says M for medium, whereas the 45 had nothing on it. So it takes the guesswork out of that one. So all this stuff goes in the pen flush, and then I get to work polishing these 3 items up. And here is the 47 all polished up and looking gorgeous. And that nib came up nicely as well, medium nib. And we'll do the cap next. Put it up here so we can see what it looks like before. There's a small dent right there and what looks like a little bit of brassing, but we'll see when it polishes up. Good amount of scratching on this, so I'll have to go at this with some 400 grit, I think. And here's the cap all polished up, looking lovely. There's still some battle scars from its age here and there. Slight dent right there in the gold. That 47 is now looking lovely alongside the 45. So when the sack arrives for the 1947, I'll do a slight insert here showing adding the sack to that. And then we'll do a writing sample with this one as well. And my pen supplies arrived from Scott Newman at 15 Pens in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Thank you, Scott. And I've got a number 16 size latex sack here. We're going to measure this, size it properly, and attach it to the nipple of this section. This is the 1947 Citation. So let's see just how much we need to take off. So it's exactly the same size. I don't need that on there just yet. Same size as that bit of the section. So you can always just measure from there to there, and I get about 7 millimeters, and it can fit into the barrel all the way to the top. If it wanted to, we take off that 7 millimeters, it will come to there. So let's cut off 7 millimeters, 6.9. Just make a mark with my caliper and give it a snip. Get on my sack spreader, we'll give it a test fit. Make sure it fits in the barrel properly and push that latex sack all the way up to that part of the section. We'll add some talc to the latex to make it slide properly and not kink up, because you don't want a kinky sack. Ain't no one got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Let's put the ring on anyway, just for goodness, and see whether it actually goes into the section. I think I've still got some. Yes. Okay. I got to take all that debris out of that barrel. I neglected to do that. That's what happens when you work on 2 pens at once. There, now I dug out the old material that was in there, cleaned it with a test tube cleaning brush to get out all the debris. A lot of the debris is right here. I put my inspection camera in the barrel, and I could see that there was some remnants of old sack right down at the bottom. So I used my dental pick and picked most of that out and then polished it up with a test tube cleaning brush, and it should be good to go now. Now let's try again getting that sack in the barrel. Give it a little bit of a twist, get it past, there we go, get it past that pressure bar, and there it is. Seems to work properly. Yep. So let's do it for real here and shellac that puppy on. Get out my shellacker pen from the inky nib and just paint the nipple all the way around. Put it on our sack spreader again on the lip and push it right back there and give a little bit of a twist. And now I'm just going to add just a bit of shellac all the way around that seam just to seal it against any potential leaks. And we'll let that dry overnight. Okay, here we go. We're going to put this sack in the barrel, twist it around a bit, and I'm going to start over here and give it a twist. Got a little bit of shellac on there, so it might actually be a little bit difficult to get it in and aligned. There, that looks pretty good. Now, when I was putting the sack on, I got a little bit of shellac on my fingers, and you can see it right there. So I'm going to polish that out, and then we'll fill this pen up and give it a test write. Okay, so I polished out that section again, and let's weigh the pen. 11.15, press tear, and we'll get out some Watermans and give this pen a squeeze and let it fill up, and give it one more squeeze just to squeeze out any bubbles. Back up again, let it sit for like 5 steamboats, and we'll try the pen again, and we get 1.1 milliliters of ink. Very good. Now let's get out some writing stuff and see where the second one is. This is the 1947 Waterman's Citation, and this one is marked a medium. It's very wet, very smooth, and feels a little bit thinner than a medium. It certainly doesn't feel as thick as the 1945. Well, let's check out the lines and see. Get up my pad, and this is more like a 0.5. Yeah, so this is a 0.5 millimeters, which makes it a Western, let's say it's a fine medium. And let's check out line variation. Yeah, there isn't as much line variation with this nib as there was with the 45, but a very, very smooth, wonderful writer. So that is the 47. Here is the 45, and I'll be back with my thoughts about these twin resurrections. So what are my thoughts about these two beautiful fountain pen resurrections? Well, I thought at the beginning that I might have to make one out of two, depending on how they came apart. My history with Waterman Taperites is not good. I've broken them before, so I fully expected to damage or destroy at least one of these. But I'm thrilled with the fact that they both come out beautifully. They're not only gorgeous pens, but they write beautifully as well. And like most twins, there's subtle differences, so you can tell them apart. The 45 is on the left here, and the 47 is on the right. The 45 has the longer lever, and it also has the thicker clutch ring. And that thicker clutch ring doesn't grab exactly perfectly. When you push it down, it grabs and it doesn't spin, but there's a little bit of spin if you pull it back a little bit. So there's a little bit of play in that. Whereas the 47, that narrower clutch ring, just works perfectly. And there's slight differences in the way they write as well. The 45 writes juicy and wet and thick, and it is a true medium with a good amount of flex to it. Whereas the 47 Waterman is a thinner medium, like a 0.5 millimeter, and doesn't have as much bounce to it. Both 14 karat gold nibs, both pens write beautifully, and if you don't want to separate twins, you can have both of these fountain pens for $250 US. But if you need to separate them, if you want to buy one over the other, then they're going to be $140 US each, plus shipping, of course. The first person to contact me will decide whether these twins will be separated. And all you have to do if you're interested in buying these pens is email me at inkquiringminds@gmail.com with your name and your address, and I'll get you a shipping quote, and you can tell me which of these two pens or both you want to purchase. And I'll give you instructions on how to pay my PayPal. As always, members get to see these videos first, so you members are going to see this a couple of days in advance of the Pen Resurrection Sunday. But again, it's first email, first sale. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell to get instant notifications whenever a new video is posted. And you can join as a member of my channel and get all these early perks for just 99 cents a month, and you'll get cool emojis, badges, sneak peek unboxing videos, as well as instant access to videos like this the moment I post them. And that just leaves it for me to say, eeny, meeny, miny, which one shall I write with? Thank you for watching. And that's all she wrote. And that's all she wrote.
I made this.